If you met Francois on any given day, the first thing you would notice is his distinct Franco accent, love of hockey, and the blue coach's uniform he's always wearing. A real Canadian through and through. What you wouldn't know is Francois has been to North Korea, one of the most politically isolated countries in the world, not once, but twice, to coach the men's and women's national hockey team.
The relationships that you've built, have you felt that they have been very genuine?
Oh, for sure. Like you can tell you can tell like I remember like second trip when we met with vice chairman, the head coach of the women's national team. Like this guy was so happy to see us. And you remember that show we went to at the rink? Yeah, remember the three girls that saw us in the stands? They were so excited when they saw us and when we waved, and they started like running across the stands to meet up with more of their teammates to come and say hi, right? Like that is like you can't fake that. You know what I mean?
My friends and I have been on a crazy journey for the last couple of years, building a company that really was a disguise for building a community. We named ourselves Inertia Network because we wanted to be reminded to never let inertia own us and to break it whenever we have the chance. Our adventures have led us everywhere from swimming with humpbacks in French Polynesia to having a beer with locals in North Korea. And this podcast is our attempt at sharing conversations with people that inspire us, push boundaries, and embody what it means to break inertia. My name is TK, and I'm one of the co-founders of Inertia Network. I hope you can join me in learning the philosophies, mindsets, and stories of people that live life on their own terms and ultimately guide you in breaking your inertia.
Today we're joined by Francois Lemay, hockey coach, father, and one of the rare individuals who has been to North Korea, not as a tourist, but as a coach. He's on a mission to help utilize hockey to build human-to-human bridges to a country generally shunned by the international community.
So I know that you've been to North Korea twice now. What kind of got you initially interested in North Korea?
I actually always been interested about knowing more about the place because it was a place that kind of fascinated me because there's just no information. You know, you kind of had the gist of what went on. Whatever was on the news, that's what we knew, right? But I don't know. It's like Russia back then, Cold War and stuff like that. Like I've always been attracted. I don't know if attracted is the right word, but I've been fascinated by it just because it was so different. And uh, even in my coaching right now, I like to do different things. I like to do what people don't want to do.
Mm.
Like I've never been on vacation on a beach,
Mm-hmm.
but then again, I've been on vacation. I call it vacation in North Korea twice.
Yeah.
I've been to Slovenia a long time ago. Slovenia, when I was talking to people and they thought I was, talking about Slovakia. They didn't even know that Slovenia existed. And I'd be like, oh, it's by Austria. And people would be like, Australia? No, Austria. Like people had no clue. It's a small country, right?
Yeah.
Early 2000s, I spent some time in China too. And back then, Chinese hockey had absolutely no foreign influence.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty rough hockey. It was raw. It was very raw. But I just got into it because people didn't know about it. And China kind of got me the bug to start coaching. And I was there as a player actually. But I also got into Asian hockey from there, right? Like so, the Japan Hockey League and Korea, obviously South Korea. And then they kind of just, I don't know, man, it just evolved into me ended up in North Korea twice.
Yeah. So what was it kind of like, when you first landed in North Korea, got off the train, entered the country, kind of take it all in? What was that? What was that experience kind of like for you?
It's still, as of today, still super hard to put into words because it's more about how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, I was there with people that have been there before, so that was huge for me, right? But for me, it was mostly that the night before. I remember being at the hotel there, and um, in Dandong, and just looking over the river, and it was just dark, and I was just like, dude, like this is tomorrow, like this is happening for real, and it's like this. I've always said like, oh, someday I'll go to North Korea. I'd like to do something with hockey in North Korea, but you kind of just say it because it's like almost fantasy, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't think it's gonna happen, and just the fact that it was just coming all together, uh, it was awesome. Like I wasn't scared. I was very excited, anxious, but like at no point was I scared or anything. Um, but yeah, it was the feeling of I'm going to be setting foot somewhere where barely anyone has ever set foot. And a lot of people in their field of work will have tried and tried and tried to go there and have access to what we had access to, and it never worked, right?
Mm.
So here I am, this little university hockey
Yeah.
coach, nobody really in the hockey world. I was, you know, it was huge for me. And my uncle actually did that in Europe. He was one of the first North Americans to go to Europe, and he started coaching and getting involved, and he's still there today. And he made such he got a lot he did a lot for hockey there, right? He
Mm.
he put a lot of clubs on the map, and he basically the way that hockey is in France right now is pretty much because of him, right?
I see.
So I've always wanted to be a little bit like him and kind of be like, you know, do something do something important, do something big, you know. So I don't know, he was someone I looked up to, and he just did so much, and it was hard for me to like I've always wanted to do that, but where are you going to do that?
Hmm.
Hockey's pretty much developed everywhere. But hey, North Korea of all places, a place that I've been fascinated with for a long, long time. So it was pretty surreal, man. Like even today, I kind of think about it, and it just doesn't feel real yet.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Kind of on that note, I know you had mentioned a little bit how you didn't feel scared, but I think a lot of people that think about North Korea and going to North Korea, they have a lot of fear or anxiety about the safety element of it. And so, what did you feel about that when you're in the country
yeah.
even before you went, or like how people were reacting to the idea of you going to North Korea?
Well, it's funny because I had a lot of people give me all kinds of tips about being there, right? And I'm like, dude, you're giving me tips about being in North Korea? Well, you've never been. Like you're
Yeah.
used to resorts in Mexico, right? Like that's not traveling. You know what I mean? But I've always traveled myself. China, I was there all by myself. Slovenia, all by myself. And it was places where I didn't know anybody. I did not know where I was getting myself into, and I was fine. So North Korea was just. At no point did I felt unsafe at all. It's actually felt very safe the entire time because we were with people from with locals, and I mean I'm well traveled enough to know that you're not home, you're in their country, and it's their customs and their rules and their laws, and I mean you just know what you're getting into before you get there. So the only way you can get in trouble if you purposely put yourself there in trouble, do something really really dumb. So I at no point did I felt unsafe at all.
That's how I felt about my first time being there. I think if you stay within the lines they draw, you almost never get into any problems.
No, you're fine. You just got to be respectful. It's like, yeah,
So, North Korea is not a very open country, especially internationally, and I think that kind of reflects on how they play hockey because they don't get that much ice time with other hockey players. The only times they really
yeah.
get international experience is when, they have major tournaments. Could you kind of talk about what type of game are they playing and where do you feel North Korean hockey can move into the future?
Yeah. I think the main issue is like there's no solid foundation. It's like it always starts at the bottom, right? So there's a certain pyramid in hockey where at first it's basic skill, right? And it evolves from there, right? And then it's more like it goes up to strategy and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
But it basically you can't do much short term, but you can do a lot long term. And I mean, unfortunately, the hockey that they see, the only international hockey they see at the World Championships is not good hockey because they don't play against good hockey countries.
Mm.
So that's kind of a bummer. And I mean, obviously, they can't watch NHL hockey, they can't watch KHL hockey, and there's a ton to learn when you actually watch hockey and pay attention, right? And
Hmm.
they don't have that. But Korea, I think it's a really fragile game right now because I mean the Russians were there in what 50s and the 60s, and
Yeah.
then when the Russians stopped going, their game just did not evolve. You know, so in hockey, like you have 3 or 4 lines of forwards, right?
Mm.
Usually play with 3 or 4 lines forwards, 3 or 4 lines of defense, and 2 or 3 goalies, whatever. But in North Korea with specials, like they play in units of 5. So the same 3 forwards are always with the same 2 defensemen, which you do not see like anywhere else in the world. You know, developed hockey countries, anyways.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just a lot of odd things. Like just they're just so far behind, and what we can do us is where we can make a difference. Short term, like we can get little flashes here and there. Short term of improvement, but it's more long term with the kids because they don't really have that much adult hockey players there, but they have a lot of kids playing. You
Yeah.
know, and you just gotta put a plan together, like basic foundation, like skating, passing, shooting, and just go from there. And as those kids get older and older, then it's layers, right? Then you add more to it. But yeah, I mean, skill wise, the guys are fast. The players are fast. They're little sloppy skaters. Obviously, the equipment doesn't help.
Yeah.
You have skate blades that are they're cracked. You have sticks that have been welded together. Uh, a lot of those guys play with sticks that that just don't work for them. Either they're too long, too short, or the lie of the blade is not good enough. It's not right for them, anyways.
Yeah.
The equipment doesn't help. I don't think skate sharpening is a big thing there. Um, it's tough, man. Like
Yeah.
it's really tough, but you know, try to stick with a plan, a development plan, and hopefully we're only there once a year anyways, maybe twice a year. So I think they have the right people though. Like once you teach them something, they'll go with it. Uh, I remember doing a goalie practice last time and it was like super late at night and we kind of just got that practice in. And there was quite a few coaches on the ice with us. And we did a drill. I showed something. And the next morning when we went back at the rink, there were kids already on the ice, and one of the coaches that was there the night before was working with the goalies, and I watched him because as soon as I walked in and I looked, I saw him teach to the kids exactly what he was taught the night before, and he nailed it.
Awesome.
Like it was perfect. And yeah, I think at that point I had a really good feeling that what, if we can keep going once or twice a year and just do a little bit more, like we're on the right track. Like at that point, I knew that they had the right people in place. So that's encouraging.
So I remember that you had when we went, because I was there with you the last time that we went, and we
Yeah.
kind of talked a little bit about how your mentality towards coaching people in North Korea is so different from coaching people in North America. Could you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
like what you meant?
Um, I, I was living in Ontario back then, and where I was living, it was not a great hockey community, and I have absolutely no problem saying that. It's a lot of parents getting in the way of development for the kids. Um, I was a little frustrated when I first traveled there, and for me, it was very refreshing because you blow the whistle, the kids come to you, they take a knee, they don't talk, they listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously this discipline was just night and day, right, compared to what I was used to. It's just like they just don't ask questions. That's the thing, right? And when I first got there, obviously I don't know them, they don't know me, right? And they're like, this is this one guy come in and we'll never see him again.
Yeah.
Didn't turn out that way, which is great, but I mean, they had their doubts at first, I'm sure, which is normal. I mean, how many of those people spend a week with, a Canadian hockey coach?
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody, right? Um, yeah, just like the discipline and just like those, they just, and then we kind of warmed up to each other, and then they start asking questions, and they're shy people, they don't really talk, and they don't talk back, but as it went, like it was getting a lot more personal between me and the players and the coaches, and then they start asking questions, and you would show them something, and obviously when you show them something you got to explain, it has to make sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they really bought into the whole thing. And sometimes back home, like you see a kid do something and you show him and he's like, yeah, whatever, and then he goes back out and does the same mistake again. And like I don't know why people do that. And obviously like the parental influence too, right? Like you don't have that in North Korea. you
Mm-hmm.
know, kids learn something in the rink. They don't go home and they don't get dad telling them something different. And in Canada, North America, parents very often are a big issue when it comes to failed development with their kids. Um, in a lot of cases, parents are to blame because the kid just, someone tells him this, the parents tells him that, and he doesn't know what to do anymore, and the kid's stuck in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was just like just overall attitude and the behavior of the people, not just the kids, but even the national team players, right? Complete different. It was just like night and day. It was great. It was refreshing for me.
Yeah. So how was it kind of coaching and kind of instructing the men's national and the women's national team?
They're actually very different from each other. like, yeah, the women's. I mean, I've coached a lot of teams before. I've been involved with a lot of teams, and that the women's national team is my favorite to coach all time.
Wow.
Yeah, like they don't talk much, but you can tell they really enjoy it. You know, they enjoy each other. They enjoy being on the ice with each other. They enjoy the game, and for them, like it's a full time job, right? So I don't know a lot of people that enjoy their full time job as much as they enjoy theirs. The men's are a little different. Yeah, you can tell they were less of a unit.
Mm-hmm.
The girls were really unified together. They were really strong together. The men, a little bit less. It was a little different, but I think the guys are a lot older. There's a lot of older players too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the men played the. When you have older players, um, younger players tend to give the puck to older players a lot.
Mm-hmm.
By respect, and I think that that's a problem. And it wasn't that much of a problem with the women because I think the women are closer in age, but the gap in age with the men's was greater. So a lot of times, some of the younger players, are looking on the ice for older players just to give them the puck, and even though they're in a terrible position to receive that pass, well, they still made it, right? So it was different, but I think the women's were just, I think because they're closer in age with each other, we're a lot more unified than the men's team.
So a lot of times when I talk to people about North Korea, they kind of talk about how they feel like they wouldn't be able to have any genuine relationships with anyone from North Korea. And now that you've been there twice, do you feel like that's not necessarily true?
Yeah.
Or the relationships that you've built, have you felt that they have been very genuine?
Oh, for sure. Like you can tell. Like I remember, like second trip when we met with vice chairman, the head coach of the women's national team. Like this guy was so happy to see us. And you remember that show we went to at the rink?
Yeah, yeah, the ice skating, the figure skating one.
Yeah, remember the three girls that saw us in the
Yeah,
stands?
yeah, I do remember totally seeing them.
They were so excited when they saw us and when we waved, and they started like running across the stands to meet up with more of their teammates to come and say hi,
Yeah.
right? Like that is like you can't fake that. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And just the handshakes, like the handshakes are sincere and just they looked at you right in the eye, and just the fact too that you have conversations with them and there's no distraction, right? It's not like home. Like, you talk with someone at home and people are distracted by their phones or whatever, right? But they're like, they just remember everything. They just remember every conversation you had, even from the year before. So they really value their one-on-one time with you. And I think this is getting lost here in North
Mm-hmm.
America. There's just so much, but like, man, like people are excited to see us. They're really, really excited, and they really take advantage of their time together. And I do too, obviously, right? Like it's just, and then they share personal details with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's unbelievable.
Do you feel like hockey has played a big part in like kind of bridging that understanding between foreigners and people from North Korea? Uh,
Well, for sure, right? Because no matter where you are, if you meet someone and you have nothing in common,
yeah.
it basically the relationship goes nowhere, right? You know, but I think that's hockey is one of the only things that we have in common, and tremendous bridge for sure.
For you, what makes you want to go back? What's the one big thing, or maybe many smaller things that keep driving you back? Because like I know from talking to you, I know this for you isn't just like a one and done. It's not a It's not something that's going to end in the next year. I see just from the way that you talk about it
Yeah,
that you're going to be back there for who knows, maybe the rest of your life.
yeah. Um, a lot of personal satisfaction of being able to make a difference. Um, I didn't play in the NHL. I've never been a hockey star. I've never been a coaching star. And sometimes here, for people, that's all they want, right? You know, but there it's like they just like we're doing something important here. For them, it's huge for them to have someone come in on their own dime and just, it's two weeks away from my family too, right? And a lot of people there didn't realize that we were going there on their own dimes and that we were away from our families for that long. And when they realized that, it kind of just hit them that it really meant something special to us being there. Um, a lot of personal satisfaction, but just like being part too of you guys, and it's Canadians and North Americans. Like it's hard to see how those two can come together, and I think we're onto something big here. And it's more than hockey. Let's put it that way. It's just a lot more than hockey. You're able to do something that most people will never be able to do. And once you get there, those people appreciate you and they became friends with you, right? And it's just mind blowing. I just feel so lucky to be able to do it. And then you're invited back, and it's very rewarding. And yeah, it changes your perspective on a lot of things too, right?
Like what?
Ah, man, you just appreciate your life at home a lot more, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. You realize those people live off basically nothing, and they really enjoy their time at the rink and their time at hockey, and they have, their gear. It's just it's a struggle to keep hockey alive there. Let's face it, right? We really don't have much, and we have people here that have everything, and they still complain.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. Like a lot of things that bugged me before the first time I went
Mm-hmm.
there don't bug me anymore because I'm like, you know what? Like I can't complain. Some people have it a lot worse, and they don't complain. And even if they could complain, they
So
wouldn't do it.
yeah,
So I don't know. It just yeah,
I definitely feel that. It's like it's been like that for a lot of the places that I've been to, and especially coming back from North Korea, it kind of builds that perspective for we where we are very fortunate. We have a lot,
yeah,
and yet it feels like we're the people that complain more than anyone out there.
for sure. And it's just so hard to put into words too, right? Like I said, it's a lot of how you feel about
Mm-hmm.
things. It's not like it's hard to put into words exactly like the change because it changes you going there. It definitely changes you.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so hard to put into words.
So I guess my final question for you is for any person or any player that might have some hesitation or thinking about going, what would you tell them to kind of maybe not necessarily convince them to go, but to have a little bit more empathy towards the people there and like what's trying to be created and built and trying to develop hockey as something that is able to build bridges between complete foreigners.
I say if you're hesitating, if you're thinking about going, you definitely got to go. I just you're gonna get so much out of it personally, and for them, it's huge to have like what maybe 20, 30 foreigners to go there and play hockey. They don't get to play exhibition games. You know, they can't. They can't go to play China. They can't play South Korea. Nobody's going to go there to play them. They can't go anywhere to play them. So for them, every bit of experience they can get is huge for them. You know, I think if you like hockey and if you want to do something different, it's a hell of a conversation starter. That's for sure. But if you really like, a lot of people say they want to make a difference with hockey, but it's on their terms only, right? You know what I mean? Um, if you really want to do something special and be part of something special, like you got to go. Like you have to. It's just so freaking rewarding. It's not even funny. It's gonna be the trip of your life, trip of a lifetime for sure, and it's gonna be the highlight of your life, definitely.
Wait, actually, before we end, I just want to get your opinion on this. In 10 years, where do you see it being, like North Korean hockey, and if there's continuous involvement of people trying to help develop it?
You know what? I like to use they have a really good amount of kids playing in the country, right? Um, if if we get a good plan going and somehow get them better equipment, and get some kind of a way for them to see like what real hockey is, right? NHL, KHL hockey. Um, those people are super smart, like super super smart. So I think if they, I think it's gonna be much better for sure. I think the next 3 years or so are crucial, right? Um, but they have the numbers, they have the bodies, with youth players. And you saw it like I did. Like there's a lot of really good hockey players there, kids, right? 10, 12 years old. So you just got to get them some kind of experience. You just got to if they could get a little more exposure on real hockey, professional hockey, and get on track with development. And if we can do a tournament every year, just that's going to be huge for development. You know, um, I mean, Taiwan, like with their women's program, went from nothing to something really, really, really good right now. And I think they're in the same boat as North Korea, like body wise. There's a lot of similarities with Taiwan and North Korea, right? Other from the money, obviously. But Taiwan did something really good with their women's program, and the Netherlands, they used to be like nothing, and they won two divisions in a row. You know, so yeah, I mean, who knows where it's going to go? But I think there's a lot to look up to in 10 years. I know, it's kind of hard to answer though. Yeah, but I really think they have the right people there. And if you get them the right information, and if they can somehow have access to not even games, but just clips of North American hockey, that's going to make a big difference because they're smart people and they're hardworking. You know, so I think I'm thinking of vice chair, right? And
Yeah.
I think they have a lot. They have the right people there. Yeah.
So a lot of what we do at Inertia is talking about how you kind of break out of autopilot and how you change your perspective and not do the things that are expected of you or the norm. So, my last question to you is, how do you feel that you've broken your inertia?
You know what? For me, I feel like I've been doing it for a long time, maybe without not realizing it, But you mentioned autopilot, like just too many people live on autopilot. You know what I mean? For me, it's all about, I have
Mhm.
4 kids, right? And I want them to be different, So it's kind of something that I've been doing for a long time. Um, man, like you got to get better. And as you get older, the only way to get better is do things differently. You know, I too many people around me my entire life just content with their routine and just doing the same thing over and over and over, and I just never fit it in that mold, right? And I want to keep moving, I want to keep innovating, I want to grow. And for me, it's always been through hockey. And even at a young age, I used to go to Europe in the summer for hockey. I was the only one that did that, and people thought I was nuts. Um, just like all those places I've always wanted to see. It was just me because people didn't want to go there, but I wanted to do something different. Everybody goes left, I wanted to go right. And just to check it out. And if things go wrong, well, you know, learning lesson, right? And learn your lesson and just whatever, just push through it. So very important for me personally, just to be different, basically. And my kids see that. My oldest kid is 10. My youngest one is 18 months. Obviously, he's too young, but 10, 8, and 5, right? And they know that. They see that we do things differently at home. And my wife is getting like that too, more and more. Uh, it's just a just fun way to live. You have one life to live, and you just got to make it your own. Do what you want. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing in their lives. And sometimes, you know, me and those people are just not a good fit. We might get along, but that's about it. It's just about being different. And I think there's a huge value in doing things differently in your life. Huge value.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Inertia Network podcast. If you like what you heard, come check out our website, inertianetwork.com, or follow us on Instagram at Inertia Network so you can see what our journey has looked like. Hope we can continue on this adventure together, have some meaningful conversations, and break our inertia. See you next week.